Hello, this is the first of my Saturn series of astrology videos. This one counts as both a learn astrology video and I'm also it's a preface to talking about Saturn now and how Saturn affects you now and how to pay attention to the planet Saturn now. I'm going to try to keep it brief because I realize that time is precious and nobody has time to listen to 10 minutes. So first of all, long before the planet Uranus was discovered, Saturn was considered the outermost planet. So Saturn represents limitations. It was considered the limit of the solar system, so hence its meaning. And Saturn also what is the name for the Greek god Kronos, which is time. And Saturn represents time as well, time being the biggest limitation that we all face in this earthly life. I like to describe it to people like this. Saturn represents both the contract and the contraction. So the contraction of our energy into form, and almost like the contract that we sign coming into form, whereby we agree that we are a certain element. We may all be just energy vibrating. But you think that you're a person. You think that I think that this whole combination is me, Melissa, even though it's really formed of a lot of different things, and there's a lot more space than there is form in this. And I think that I'm me. I don't think that I'm the table that I'm sitting next to or the chair that I'm sitting on. I don't think I'm you, even though I may be able to connect to you or even psychically see things in relationship to you. But I understand myself to have a certain body, and I'm here on this earth for a certain period of time. So Saturn is the contract whereby I understand myself, this entity that I think of as me, to be me. And the biggest limitation that body faces, along with the limitations of the body, are the limitations of the body, meaning time being the biggest ones. I'm only going to be here for a certain amount of time. So hence Saturn's reputation as the disciplinarian, the teacher. What am I supposed to be doing with my time? What am I doing with my time? How am I using my time? In your chart, Saturn shows your particular responsibilities, what you are, on some level, what you are supposed to be doing with your time. This is not always an easy thing for everyone, depending upon the aspects that Saturn makes and depending upon the sign that Saturn is in. Saturn likes to be in certain signs more than in others, and also if Saturn makes favorable aspects to certain planets in your chart, it's easier for you, and if it makes difficult aspects, it's harder for you. Just as as Saturn continues to move, when Saturn in the universe, in the solar system, makes difficult aspects to certain planets in your chart, including Saturn in your chart, things bring up Saturn-like issues, and Saturn-like issues are issues of responsibility, of discipline, of what am I doing with my time. Usually the kinds of negative feelings that come up around Saturn are worry, feeling old, a sense of burden or responsibility. And those are kind of the big ones. Now those don't always necessarily have to feel bad, because also Saturn can bring rewards for work done. When you go through Saturn aspects, Saturn as the disciplinarian or the teacher, unlike some planets, when you go through the difficulty, there's usually a lesson to be learned, and it's kind of like taking an exam. It's really, really hard beforehand. You feel most of the time like you're not going to get it, or you don't get it, or you don't understand it, but then, you do get it, you pass the test, you're on to the next level. Of course, most of us get the same lesson in some form or another over and over again, but it comes back in different forms. And as we get older, this is where time becomes our friend, we get more and more used to what the Saturnian lessons are, which is why Saturn's placement in your chart also shows how you will age. People who have Saturn at the very beginning of their chart, next to their ascendant especially, usually have a very difficult childhood. They have to be old before they're young. Often they have a lot of responsibility placed on them, but they age really well. They get younger as they get older. That's only one Saturn aspect. I will go into more Saturn aspects. It's important because right now we are dealing with a what's called a T-square, a particularly challenging aspect between Saturn, which is currently in the middle of Sagittarius, which is squaring both Neptune, which is in the middle of Pisces, and Jupiter, which is in the middle of Virgo. And this is a very, very nerve-wracking, difficult to get a grip on sort of aspect in which there's all kinds of worry and paranoia, and it's difficult to get a realistic grasp, but there's a sense that something needs to be done about it. And Jupiter's presence in there just kind of blows it all up, blows it all out of proportion, leading to people like Donald Trump capturing the fantasies of people with the belief that he is somehow going to change everything. Nonetheless, Donald Trump aside, Saturn is a very important planet to get to know. It takes about 28 or 29 years to make a complete cycle around the sun. And when Saturn returns to the position that it was when you were born, that is called your Saturn return. The first one happens around the age of 28 or 29, and that is when astrologically you are considered an adult. That is when you first come face to face with the lessons particular to you in your lifetime, and when you first have to make really truly big life-changing decisions in the sense that put you on your path. Usually people get depressed before any difficult Saturn aspect, including their Saturn return, and they feel old even when they're 28, which of course sounds ridiculous to anybody who is beyond 28, but nonetheless you do. With strong Saturn aspects, like your Saturn return, people do make changes. It's an assessment period. If what you're doing is not right for you, then you have to change it or it will be changed. People frequently leave jobs or they can get promotions. People get married or end relationships, people move, kind of big life changes happen around your Saturn return. The good news is that after your Saturn return, there is a sense of rebirth where you realize, where you drop all of those shoulds, all of the shoulds that you were carrying that you realize had nothing to do with you and nothing to do with what you're supposed to be doing with your life, that you picked up from your mother or your father or your parents or your teachers, but none of these had to do with you, with what's absolutely in your heart, what's your responsibility, what your body, mind, and spirit is supposed to be doing in this lifetime. So there's often a sense of tremendous rebirth as you reconnect with your own purpose. This definitely happens with the first Saturn return. If you kind of don't get the picture and don't make the changes and make the lessons, you face the same issues with your second Saturn return, which happens sometime between 56 and 58, usually more like 57, 58, maybe sometimes pushing 59. And then, God willing, you have a third Saturn return to deal with as well. I don't know that I've met anybody with fourth Saturn returns. All right, that's enough for Saturn now. Next time I will talk a little bit more about Saturn in the different signs and also about Saturn where it is now. And eventually I will get into generationally. If you were born, say, in this period of time, what does Saturn's position mean that you're dealing with right now, both in terms of years, because Saturn affects generations, and also, let's say you're Gemini. What does that mean for you in terms of where Saturn is right now? All right, talk to you later. Bye.